like the cinema doesn't even prediction right now as for like the girl who stole like the 4 million from like Sangyong, like basically her basically covering her face and basically that they're surviving like the sleeping gas but like the it within like the van of like the Squid Game like and so the see her doing that would be definitely not for her to like basically my personal impression is that her intent behind doing that will definitely not be to like so that like he will be able to like find her way back and be able to like escape like the Squid Game if something goes wrong and he has like a change of mind literally after like entering in like the Squid Game even in like the second time and then for her to like find like the way to like get back to the city or for like her to like basically catch up like the people behind like the studio by leaving through like by on the close like as in like a piece of paper like with the writing about like the studio and like on the road then like the like putting those papers on to the road as like he will be taken to like the studio and that way to like basically inform the police and basically that way to like capture the people behind the game. Like basically, her intent behind like, covering her face and surviving like the sleeping gas would definitely be none of these is definitely not taken away. And her sole intent behind her covering her face and that actually determination to like survive like the sleeping gas while being taken precisely into like the games for the second round of the country could be with like her precise intent to basically figure out she will be able to bring that really like that girl would definitely be having like that out and would be totally having like a hope as well of like the possibility that they get a professional like game where like Squid Game since really since like this game is like such an extremely dangerous game like I'm considering that she would be like only having like a feeling that it would be taking place in such in some extremely remote locations far away from the city definitely my position. So that like she would be like totally maybe placing hope of like the person that maybe if the is her ultimate goal is to like really get bring her get her parents back to her place bring her parents back to her place like about the everything like her would be like right now hoping for basically the locations of like where like this game would be taking place possibly being in a location where like the possibility that it being in like a location where like she might be able to cross and basically would be able to like bring her parents to her place and that way achieve what like achieve like what I'm supposed to think would be like the highest priority, highest and only biggest priority in her life is that living with children and to bring even money as in like when it comes to like basically finding a place to stay and all that I'm considering that would even would be most likely coming secondary to like this particular definitely my personal preference. For her, like the ultimate priority would be just for her to be able to like bring her parents to her place in definitely my personal to her town and definitely my personal so like to our country is definitely not able that would be like her highest priority. So like her plans behind like covering her face and surviving like the sleeping gas were taken to like the through the van to the game which is precisely to like the first attempt to see if like it were like it's the location of like where like the game would be actually taking place would be at like a location that would be like only suitable and favorable for like her goals of basically saving her parents and bringing her parents like to the country. Then like I'm bring if that's the scenario, then like she will be only planning on basically quickly stealthily trying to like escape and basically escape from like the vehicle and basically for her to like all by herself to like take that ultimate risk and basically for her to like all by herself try to like make it towards like cross and make it towards like where her parents will be and basically for her to like give it her absolute best in being in attempting to like bring stealthily one bring by herself trying to like bring her parents back to her country. This would be what I'm going to say precisely that the girl who sold like the 4 million from the protagonist would be right now attempting to like her covering her face to like survive and that was surviving like those living as within the land. Like Squid Game is definitely my person theory and person. And campus liberating while being transported towards like the Squid Game and her like scarcely like watching like the entire way and then her solely feeling absolutely glad that basically like the like solely due to like absolute sheer luck and coincidence that basically the precise island where like Squid Game would be taking place would be like at like the precise location where like she would be able to like basically cross and basically will be like see her parent. It's like the scenario that I'm about to bring, but like I'm about to bring, and so like her on realizing that like while being transported to like the game location, her realizing that and yet like I'm about to bring that security being so extremely tight even during like the transportation, like the security of like the game being like so extremely tight that like I'm about to bring her to like desperately look for like a chance to like basically escape, but like I'm about to bring solely due to like the security being extremely tight, and like the security also having like all sorts of weapons as well. So like about to bring her like basically like being disappointed by the extreme tightness in like security that like about to bring like I'm about to bring her to not have like the choose the no chance like rather than courage like I'm about to bring her seeing like absolutely no chance of being able to like escape force her way into like or like stealthily try to like make an escape and even make it to like her dream destination and be able to like see the parents all by herself with like this extreme while this extreme type security of like games is like okay, this is definitely not famous. So like I'm referring her right now realizing for the sense her like basically an extremely disappointed that girl to be totally extremely disappointed and then like her deciding that basically to basically enter into like the Squid game yet like I'm considering she wouldn't be even having like the patience to like complete the entire Squid game like I'm considering maybe like she would be like the first person that would be like she wouldn't be like at the end at that point I'm considering her to not even at all be interested in like the huge sum of money reward uh, that she would be that like that she would get if she even completes like with Squid. So like when all that money won't be like of any interest to like the girl at that point. Uh, the moment she would realize like the location of like the Squid Game, definitely went to the movie approach. So her only goal at that point will be to like somehow escape like the building of like the Squid Game just so that like she could like bring see her parents and bring her parents. That would be like the only thing in her mind. And then the different people be through her that and the different team bring once she would be like entering into like the building of like, the studio like at that from that point on itself like I'm the bring her to start her own strategy to like exactly get like the candidates of like a student in a stealthy manner to like different precisely observing each and every single candidate that will be participating in like the studium and like precisely noting like stealthily observing and precisely noting like the specific candidates that he could totally like trick and convince would be able to like trick and convince to like get them eventually get them to like join her side into like trying to like into like basically joining and that way helping with her attempt to like escape from like the building of the studio midway. So like I'm going to the process strategy that she would be using to like precisely get them to join her side would be to like precisely I'm going to bring her to like accomplish her strategy at that point I'm going to bring her making this like plan with like and trying to convince like a bunch of other candidates in like the Squid Game that basically like let's just like outsmart like the people running the Squid Game by like by basically using all sorts of strategies and trickery like basically to basically outsmart them and like basically overpower like uh, the people in like the red uniform. And like I'm considering especially because like each time they will be showing up before like the Squid Games, each Squid Game, that there will be such few in that number. So basically along such lines to take advantage of all that situation and to like only outsmart them so that like they would be able to like not only like so that like that way they won't have to like rush that by playing each of these good games. At the same time, like if they bring down like the people coming in good game, they will be having like possibly able to like get access to all that huge reward money and the actual true reward money that would be even maybe like and I'm going to have to even tell trying to like trick the other game candidates into like possibly trying to make them convince them saying that there's always also like the possibility that there could be even way more money secretly stored within this like premises of like this Squid Game building. That's like that would be even way greater than even like the money that they displayed in like the last piggy bank as well. So like they in that way tempting like the other generation to like secretly like that way convincing them tricking them into like that way convincing them into like getting them to like join like the girl side to like actually to precisely observe like the people in like the uniform to like and stuff to find to slightly sharply observe to like find an opening to like eventually frisk them. And that way, like with that goal, like while considering her goal would be only to like escape from the building of the studio and make it to that and make for her to be able to like see her parents and bring her parents to like her country. It's definitely not really. So like this would be I'm considering an eventual scenario that I'm considering like a plot to basically bring down like the people running and bring down like the running like to give and to bring that plot and that plan to be basically started being starting such a plan being started eventually getting started potentially through this exact is definitely my personal reaction. And definitely like the first person that she would be exactly targeting to and to like strategy later can convince and to get that person to join her join this plan to bring down the people running within the precise first person that she would be targeting would be precisely that aggressive guy who already initially had plans to like basically bring his like men to like basically attack and bring down like the museum building and that way to like steal all the money stored in that museum. So like I'm considering that so especially because of this reason and I'm considering her to totally be able to like easily read that aggressive guy and especially because of her even knowing the aggressive guy even from like the past I'm considering her initial first target would be precisely that aggressive guy. Because we think that I'm considering her would be like somehow through the absolute trickery would be like managing to like convince and get him to join her side. So help out with support. It's definitely my position reaction. So like definitely going to keep going right now. Like the police guy in this like car, like basically following like the car, like following like the Squid Game van around far, all the way to the point of like even leaving and getting far away from like city. And all the way to following like the Squid Game van, all the way to like moving forward. Like definitely not the mentions that, like, especially since like the second game start precisely reached like each of like those precise candidates that had played like the first two game precisely when they were once again at like a rock bottom state like precisely and the fact that like the two games are precisely even them receiving like the game card like precisely even happening in such a manner as if like it was like perfectly timed the entry of its second two game card to each of those candidates that appeared as if like it appeared at that perfect timing. But the thing is, might definitely have to do with like all these people who had basically from like the moment they had they were like removed from like the first two game uh, itself like and made back to like the city from that point itself like about the point there might have definitely been like physical in my personal they might have definitely still been like constantly been secretly being inspired by like the people working for like the game in my personal so that to like potentially time like the delivery of like the second game card precisely when they were at like the they are around quarter month again it's definitely my personal so that might be like the confidence that the person running like the game had and hence like choosing to like leave to and just having to like allow all these Squid Game players to like leave like the first Squid Game due to like the majority vote and everything is definitely my good experience and like to give that confidence that they would be definitely majority of representatives would be that definitely when they are planning and also there will be that also confidence that basically they might even bring other they might even bring their friends to like the Squid Game the next time they will be returning back to like the Squid Game. That as well would definitely be a possibility that might have been like a thought throughout as well it might have definitely been like the intent behind like letting like the initial first Squid Game players like leave like Squid Game is definitely my position so that there will be like even more greater number of players entering like the Squid Game the second time. It's definitely my position. With this intent, like the person running the game might have even allowed that to like leave it all and all that, especially my person theory. So precisely because according to this theory, I'm interpreting like the even after like them leaving like the studio in the first time itself, like they might have been constantly been spied on by the people working on the game all the way to the point of like them returning back to like the Squid Game into that van of like Squid Game the second time. About different especially because of this like extremely precise secret spying and stalking of those players might have definitely been done and those different definitely so like so and especially since like it would be precisely done precisely because like the people running this studio might not definitely expect might be definitely only taking things like they have all these candidates have experienced like the Squid Game for like the first time, the extreme danger of the Squid Game for the first time. Like they might totally try to like expose like the Squid Game and basically capture like the people running like this game. They might like the candidates like the next time they will return back to this game, like they the possibility of like them attempting such a thing or like someone attempting such a thing might be like a possibility that will be like far too obvious for like the people behind like the stadium, people running the stadium. So it's actually because of all these reasons like I'm going to bring definitely this police guy right now like totally following like the Squid Game van all the way to like Museum for like basically that would be definitely something that like the people working for like this game would be totally aware of, would have totally found out even from like the moment the press police chief got into his car and started like following like the van said like I'm going to bring like the people working in like the script game might have been perfectly alerted at that moment as well. It's definitely memorable to remember. So like I'm going to bring the people in like the van, like the people driving like the Sukian van, great number of Sukian vans and all that, like them still not attacking like the police guy that like basically totally following like around all the way to like moving forward would be precisely during that would be precisely done. Like they will be literally waiting for like the police that police guy to like precisely make it into like the moving for them to like precisely time their Presley stealthily for them to get like the police guy and the green of him out like precisely when we would be like least expecting is that it is definitely much of the remake. So like I'm suffering like that to precisely must likely happen precisely as like and I'm suffering like all these fans that are right now driving to like Nugent Port like I'm suffering that all these fans either being transported most likely being transported through cargo like it's like the scenario that I'm going to bring. I'm suffering there being like a ship that would be from in like for like and I'm suffering that ship would be like a cargo ship and that ship setting sail with like all these like vans driving into all these great number of cargo and that would be how the candidates would be arriving in like the Squid Game Island. Definitely not the Squid Game, but definitely the Squid Game is like right now totally prepping for like the police guy to like enter into like the museum port and like him totally secretly like him totally on for confidently kind of like naively think that basically absolutely no persons working behind like this like mysterious game that would have even noticed him and then was preparing him to like totally stealthily spy and then was preparing him totally like police guy totally seeing like all these like vans driving into like bunch of cargo that limit and things. So like and I'm supposed to bring him to like even witness like the all these cargoes being loaded onto like a ship. And at that point I was bring him most likely stealthily trying to like infiltrate into that ship and I was bring right before that like I was bring him to like someone to like attack him from behind when he was like least expecting him. And so that like I was bring the police chief going unconscious and when he wakes up like I'm was bring the police chief would definitely be in like the green uniform in that precise huge home of like a cell where like all the Squid Game candidates like in green uniforms would be present in their blood. Like and that so there would be where like the police guy would be like waking up. It, when he would be waking up, he would be in like one of like the green uniforms. He would be in a green uniform and would be one of like the candidates. Uh, Being forced to like play like the games like the scenario that I was doing. So like I'm preferring like him to be like obsessively stealthily attacked by like the people working for him to game either while he would be like infiltrating, trying to like infiltrate either like after he would be infiltrating into like the ship that would be like loading in on the cargo and would be setting sail to like Squid Game Island either after infiltrating into that ship would be when like he would be like unexpectedly attacked by like this game workers or like I'm preparing it will be as he will be trying to like attempt to like infiltrate into the ship like in being attacked or like I'm preparing it will be basically when he would be like even entering into like music or like he would be like exactly attacked by this game workers. It's these three are like the possible scenarios that show like how like the definitely for like the police chief will like end up in like the game as like one of like, the candidates. Definitely, I'm preparing the says person behind like the game might have definitely been alerted and reported by like the game workers about like them being followed by this like police guy. And I'm also trying since that the person behind the game might have decided to like precisely like trap like the police guy and get him to forcefully play like the Squid game. So even though the police guy is not on is not like on the same situation as like the remaining entire candidates who are like participating in like this game with all of them like having like all this stuff like and with still like the plan behind like the person running the Squid game for like the police guy will be to like precisely forcefully make him play the Squid game and then like definitely the person running the Squid game will be totally expecting like none of these players to like survive like the Squid game. It's definitely my personal prediction. I'm preferring like definitely like the person running this game would be just like tempting all these like players into like candidates into playing like the Squid game with like the glass piggy bank filled with money. Like its only intent would be like just tempt and trick them into like keep playing like the Squid game when in actuality like the person running like Squid game will be having like absolutely no intent at all to like basically give those money to like the to these candidates like and considering the still think about the information that the game will be set up in such a manner that basically absolutely in order to ensure that absolutely no one will be like none among like all the great number of candidates that will be entering into like this game like absolutely no one would be like able to like survive like the final stage game. It should be in such a manner that it will be set the Squid Game should be set it's definitely my favorite and then preparing maybe like also for like the uh, for like the huge quantity of money within like the class piggy bank also not being like original. So also like a possibility that I'm going to totally perfect. So like in such a manner as well, maybe like the person trying to game will be like totally tricking and pulling like the candidates like into and that way tempting and tricking and tempting the candidates into playing the game. So also like a possibility that I'm going to do like the play of the generation as for like the person running like it's game like his intent for like I was wondering since I'm literally running the game scenario to be like the police guy getting trapped within like the Squid games, getting captured and trapped within the Squid game and so like hopefully being forced to like play the Squid game like at that point I'm also running like the person running the Squid game his intent would be to like basically uh, take the life of like this he would be like the person running this game would be like expecting like the police guy to like die in one of like the one die during like one among like the six good games like the police guy to like definitely died and at that point for him to like basically frame his the death of like the police guy as like especially since like he's like police guy like in the end of the brain like the person running this game would be having such a specific plan for like to frame that at that point of like the police guy to like basically him having died while chasing after or trying to capture like a group of like thieves or something and basically like along such lines or like through an accident like according to like the nature of like the Squid game in which like the police guy would be dying like according uh, in an according manner like basically to basically frame like create like the story and like um, frame like the death of like the um, of like the police guy and basically even leave his body in like a location far away from the city and to frame it in such a manner that like his death would be like seeming convincing enough uh, as to like having so that like the world would like still not know anything about like the Squid game at all or about how like exactly like the police chief would have died, but like they would be totally believing a different story as to like the police chief, police guy having died in some accident or like by chasing like some thieves while trying to capture the police or eventually. Along this lines, to frame the police guys that would be like that even like currently would be something that like the person running like the stadium would have already planned even right now, especially in the generation. But the universe is really interesting right now. The player in question right now of each of the players who had played like Squid game once before. Like I'm considering even with that taking place right now, and like the police guy basically trying to like disguise himself and basically into like a Squid Game candidate and being present within like the van, and but still for like the police guy to like not get in trouble, and him and his covers right now not being blown, like the scenario that I'm with right now. So like also my looking examples is that like for like since like the people since like the people in like the red uniform still haven't like detected like the so far detected like even with them all like trying the vans, and even after like within the ship like still them not having like detected like them not even being able to detect like the police guy like following like the Squid Game van all the way to like Nugent Fort and all that like I'm considering which would be like scenarios that implement the brain right now as for like even after like the police guy being present within like the ship like them still like not even coming after and capturing like the police chief would be present because like all the people in like the red uniform within that ship like still not being aware of like the police chief like police guys like infiltration into like the ship definitely not considerable. So like I'm considering like the person running the game, I'm considering him to be like not have like that much of an idea as to like the importance of like tightening up this like whole surveillance and everything and spying and everything that way to like ensure that it's like Squid Game, like the fact that it's Squid Game is taking place like basically like the to ensure that the Squid Game doesn't get exposed and the world doesn't find out about it, like in order to ensure that like basically to tighten up like the spying and like the surveillance and everything until like a player enters into like the Squid Game, like basically uh, like for like the person running like the Squid Game, like he would have absolutely no idea to like how to ensure that tightening of like that of that secret piece definitely like wasn't able, and why like he might have only and that would be the biggest reason for like him being like him possibly being like absolutely careless and even like basically him even I'm the person running the CDM would be like definitely a billionaire, and he will be like having that extreme overconfidence and absolute carelessness, and it would be through in such a manner that he would be in conducting the good game, and hence why it is like totally to be due to his like extreme overconfidence that even after like running a range of game like a good game like him even allowing like the players to like lead like the stadium like the first time. This is definitely my point, and it will be perfectly connected to that for confidence and carelessness that basically him not being able to like absolutely none of like people in like the radio of driving like the vans were able to like detect like the police guy like following them in a car and all that. It's definitely my consideration. So like right now I'm going to bring especially due to that extreme or confidence and carelessness through which like how like this good game would be right now being conducted and everything. I'm going to bring like especially because of that reason I'm going to bring right now the police guy not getting found as like basically his identity as like a police guy, like and also the fact that he's like a fake, he's like not an actual civilian candidate, and the fact that he has totally infiltrated into like the ship and all that, like I'm but still not being found. That's like the scenario that I'm doing, and I'm wondering as like how that would be happening. I'm wondering it will be not likely when though the player inspection right now is like taking place, and I'm considering definitely still won't be like the players like right now that are entering to like the game won't be like the precise players who had survived like the previous initial first two game, and basically the ones amongst them among those survivors who had basically escaped, and like the ones amongst them who had basically decided to like return back into like the years due to that like it would just be them alone that would be right now uh being transported through that ship right now in the vans is definitely my first framework. Like it would be like their friends and people they know as well would be totally entering into like the street area right now. It's definitely my comprehensive, and so this will be it's a significant of that this might be like might have definitely be like the intent behind like letting like the initial players of like the game leave the skill game after like the first game as well. It's definitely my version to get more players to like play the skill games. Definitely my version. So what might have happened would be like all these players like who had escaped like some very first good game and left got back to the city like once they were like once again rock bottom with like all their pet situation and everything in like at that point I was then deciding like the uh, point when they decided that they got the card like the studio card and they decided to get return back to like the studio, and at that point I was they might have only decided to like this time that fear of like their experience going through like the first game might have affected the person even in such a situation. So like I'm them possibly definitely having decided to like bring their friends and people whom they know, who would be like that they might have felt that would be like joining like the Squid Game along with them, like getting them as well to then join the Squid Game will be increasing their odds of being able to like win the Squid Game. Like such people under the bring realistically being like friends or like people they know like under the bring they might not only gotten them to like join like the Squid Game definitely might have been and under the bring a lot of things might have happened like with this like Squid Game candidates like under the bring they might have a bunch of them might have even tricked their people they know into like entering into like the studio into like basically and might have only given them the number in on like the card they had reviewed like second time from like the studio and that way might have even tricked them telling them that possibly might have even tricked them telling them that like the studio is like basically it's like just like a casual game and all that basically that way hiding like the dangers of game from them and that way just to like because like those people would be like good at playing game so like I'm just preferring that way to like eventually for like the possibility of like even though they would be like tricking those people they know like still I'm also preferring once like this game begins like them that even that person like instead of feeling this that person like feeling as uh being afraid to the point that that person like helping each other out to just to like survive with this game it's like such intense like and there will be also the case where like the ex-Studian candidates might have actually revealed the true dangers of like the Studian to like the people they you know that are also like filled with depth and all that. So and that way like they might have also gotten like even way more players to like join the Studian precisely by them sharing that card number, Studian card number is definitely made it clear. So like all those other people like following like this through the Studian through this Studian number and for like even more great number of players this time the second time in like the studio member bring it to be like even like the initial 450% of the current this time like I'm expecting it to be possibly even close to maybe like 1,000 might be players might even be entering like the Squid Game this time. It's definitely my preference. So like I'm surprised they are just only being like just possibly being like the current ship in which like the Sangyun and like the police guy are all, right now being transported to like I'm different that would be like only the either the initial ship just definitely my preference. Like I'm surprised multiple ships would be like without much delay would be like after this exact ship left like the port of like Mujin and the different like other ships as well might have arrived and other bands, the Squid Game bands, filled with like other players. Even more players might have arrived to like that port of like Mugen and like will be like I'm preparing more ships like coming after this trip as well. So like I'm preparing that possibly to be like a scenario and eventually once like it would be time for like the games at that point like once like the players would be or in their arena would be waking up in the game building at that point I'm going to most likely them realizing that this time like the total player count is totally different from like the last time. It's not even possible. It would be like totally close to like 1,000 is like the scenario that I'm preparing this time. It's definitely my best investment. Like I was precisely because of this reason. And then preparing since I'm also preparing it wouldn't just be like the ex-Indian candidates alone from among which like who would want to like return back to like Indian alone that would be right now returning back into like experience there will be like all sorts of like new players as well entering around with them into like stadium and the different precisely because of reason that precise sport that basically that ex-good game candidates have on their neck, which would be might have been precisely placed on them to precisely identify them as like candidates who have already played like the good game once. It's definitely my person three American precisely because like even like the person running like good game might not only expected such an eventual scenario where like they will be trying to take the after like the initial like the intent to game that like the players trying to attempting to take advantage of like the poll or like the flaws of like the majority voting to like terminate like the stadium and that way them escaping like leaving like the stadium like such a scenario might not have been foreseen by the people on the stadium and hence why they might have even before had like precisely added up the precise code barcode like a code on their neck the moment they were like forced to like Squid Game building for like the first time itself to like basically so that like the second time the one time then that will be coming back to like the Squid Game at that point like they will especially identifiable as like people who have already attempted and entered into like the Squid Game so that like the people running the games will differentiate them between differentiate them from like the players that will be entering along with them to like the Squid Game that would be like totally newbies, like people who would be like entering like this game for like the first time would be also participating according to my brain would be entering along with the like the experience candidate. So like to totally identify uh, to totally for like the people running working for like the game and running the game for them to be identify between each of these players like experience players and like the new experience players that will be entering this time would be like the precise reason for like these sports on their neck definitely my thought. So like precisely due to like this reason I'm totally preferring definitely like the police guy not getting into trouble as while he will be faking it as like a civilian candidate. That's definitely my thought impression. So yeah. Like my thought impression is that like precisely because of this exact reason I'm totally preferring like even though like the police guy is like currently in like the van trying to fake it as like a speaking candidate. And even though like the police guy doesn't have like while not having like the Squid Game uh code on his neck, but still able to bring like the police guy to be only totally seen by the people in like the red uniform as like basically a newbie candidate of like Squid Game that like entering this time. And that way like the police guy cover currently right now not getting blown. It's like the scenarios that I'm totally putting. I'm not very impression. Like my very impression right now is that like the scenario that right now printing is definitely for like the police guy to be able to like blend in with like the remaining two game candidates right now only temporarily for like the time being. But like I'm different precisely once like they would be like reaching like the Squid Game island and entering into like the Squid Game building. Like at that point I'm offering like either offering not like after entering like the Squid Game building like I'm offering like the total head count of like all the players that are entering into like the Squid Games right now uh, would be definitely taken at that point. So like I'm considering they would already have like the like, know the precise exact number of like players that are entering into like the Squid Games this time. Definitely my personal reaction. So even though like the police guy database won't be at all present. Even though the police guy is like a fake Squid Game candidate and hence like his data won't be at all present in like their database, like still empowering the police guy to be able to like keep up with the guys and cover until reaching like the Squid Game building. But like once entering like the Squid Game building and once he will be like entering like Squid Game building like at that point, like the total headcount being steadily taken while all the candidates would be like still unconscious, and then those bring the police guys totally faking in like this like unconsciousness until that point. But like once like the total headcount would be taken within like the stadium building, at that point, I'm also bring like them to totally find out that one person is like extra. Uh, them seeing like the total number, like the total number of like, all the database game candidates, like one person is like extra. So like at that point, it would be when like I'm able to bring them like basically like checking the data of like each of like the players in like the database with like each comparing that with like each of the players, and that at that point will be when numbers will bring even before like the first game will be starting. I'm able to bring at that point will be when I'm able to bring the precise police guy would be getting found out by like the people in like the radio form. At that point, it's like the scenario that I'm looking. So at that point, I'm also bringing like the police guy totally still somehow managing to like say some sort of like a convincing kind of life and like and I'm also bringing him totally maybe like even succeeding in like hiding such like identity as like the as like the police guy. So definitely from like the people running like this begins like also like the working scenario that I was covering. Yes. That point I was thinking like the whole police guy doing his absolute maximum to like conceal his identity as like him being like a police person. But like I'm also covering like definitely like the people in like the red uniform, like the leader of like the people in like the red uniform not being convinced, and like the person running like the game would be straight away reported about all the sense like him as well not being convinced. So like I'm covering the certain section of people in like the red uniform working behind like the computers and everything like them being like assigned with the task of like finding out like the precise identity of like the this like precise mysterious person, extra person who has infiltrated into like the game and I'm considering while that would be being done like I'm bring like the orders being given to like the front man by the person running like this game to like basically make him play the quick game. That would be like the orders that would be given. So like that way like I'm bring like the police guy being forced to like play like the victims quick game along with like Zangion and others. And I'm also bring the police guy definitely surviving like the quick game. And I was trying precisely one like the points I was just surviving like the first game like the film I was in the impressions definitely for like by the time like the points I was completing like, the very first good game and I'm putting at like after completing the first game like as like she will be waiting with like along with like the survivors of like the first good game they would be in that waiting place like at that point by the time like the people in like the radio will be showing up to basically talk about like the results and like the piggy banks money that have accumulated and all that. Like by then like I'm just running like the people running like this game would have totally figured out and found out like the precise identity of like the precise police guy that basically is part of like the police but yet like I'm just running them totally keeping that like not making definitely deciding to like not make that public especially because of especially because like the last thing they would want would be for like the players to like work with like that absolute coordination like to break any sort of like coordination and teamwork among like the players would be like the uh, uh, plan of would be like the actual intent of like the person running like the skill game and like how we want like the individual to face the skill game like would be without like them but like even them turning against each other and without that absolute thing. But this would be like a one thing that would be absolutely important for like the base running this figure. So they will be able to differentiate that information that the of like the police guy connection to like the police force secret from like the remaining players and I'm going to bring them to like precisely and specifically give that special extra specific importance of like an observation precisely directed towards like the police guy while I'm considering like the people running like this game would be just okay with like the police guy being present in like the Squid game because like they will be totally all confident think that he would be like trying real soon in one of like the Squid games. It is like and with that intent, like the good guy, like playing like the game along with like Sangion and the other, like the scenario that I'm looking at the Emperor. So like definitely my impression right now as for like the police guy attacking, stealthily attacking like the person in like the radio from within like the van. Like I'm looking right now, definitely the scenario that I'm looking out is definitely like the precise person in like a radio from that would be like right now exiting like that attack van would be precisely the police guy, he will be like totally like putting on the costume of like after like taking out and taking the life of like the person in like the radio from Lambo, he's wearing putting on that costume and that way disguising as like the workout of like the Squid game and then also him to like totally come out of like the van. It's like the scenario that I'm also putting in. And yet like I'm totally putting definitely like there will be that extreme importance of like him having to like hide the bodies like hide the body of like the person that he will be taking the life of. Definitely the scenario that I'm going to so like as for like how exactly the police guy would be like hiding like the body of like the person in like surrounding or someone with something like him to like most likely stealthily. But the thing I'm mentioning right now was definitely for like the police guy to take the life of like that guy in like the radio like the scenario that I was trying to do. So because of like the police guy feeling that he's gonna try he ties that red guy up and clutches his mouth as well. Even then like basically he would be able to like take the van and that way like basically the cover of like the police guy would be blown and his like mission would be taken straight away. So like I'm just bring like the police guy definitely taking the life of that guy in like the radio form and about bring the police guy hiding his body in like the back side of like the van, like the scenario in the far back side end of like the van, just like the scenario that end of the thing. So like the new impression where like after like this guy will be taking off like this guy is like wearing like the red uniform and all that like I'm wearing like eventually like the first person that he will be trying to like communicate would be precisely Sanjay, definitely not of the direction. Especially solely to let him know Hindi, Sanjay being like the only candidate in that entire game location that basically like the voice guy having known before like I'm preferring like when you were precisely Sanjay that will be like the first person that the police guy will be communicating to and it will be Sanjay that will be like especially finding out about like the infiltration then that's the thing like the first guy would definitely succeed in like shooting and tricking like the remaining workers of like the Squid Games with like the skies of playing in with like with the skies of like the red uniform, but like the different still but the thing like that disguise eventually the different definitely getting found out and that classic power of when the police are getting found out eventually in the future and the thing at that the moment the cover would be blown like was into definitely die. But like until then I'm definitely thing like with like the cover of like the really going to bring the police guy only helping out like Sangion and others like the scenario, a lot of like the scenario that I was bring. But definitely I was to bring Sangion eventually being like the first person to like find out about like the infiltration of like the police into like the Squid Game building. It's definitely like the scenario that I was to bring. I'm also very much. Even though I was to bring according to my was definitely bring like the disguise and cover of like the police guy to get eventually blown in like the kind of like in like not in the near but like I'm about to bring in the distant future like and that resulting in like the police guys that like that like his guy getting found out and resulting in his death like I'm about to bring still his death won't be in vain because like by then like I'm about to bring like Sangion and the others would be by then would have experienced like a lot of things and I'm also putting uh, like Sangion and the others being of like the desire to like once again by then would be of like that absolute desire to like escape like the game somehow. It's like the scenario that I'm also bring and like so like the depth of by then like the depth of like the for this guy won't be in vain because like by then like the sentiment of reimbursement the sentiment of reimbursement of the thing like eventually for like the disguise of like the police guy to like get found out and basically that resulting in just like that like by the Squid Game of the like and the thing at that point even though like the people working in like his game as well as like the also running like his game and all of them that they would be by then feeling relieved that to like having found out about this and basically having taken the life with let them taking the life of the police chief the police guy they would be thinking that it's all over but like I'm different by then like by the time they will be taking the life of the police guy like another one of like the people in like the red uniform would be stealthily would be like taking the life of by one of like the civilian candidates and that protects the game candidate and was prepping to be the next person to like totally infiltrate and by like stealing the red uniform that way and disguising as like another worker of like the city game in like red uniform. So like definitely interesting right now like the police takes one for like basically like interested like throwing like the dead body of like the two actors to game worker onto the sea like I'm referring specifically that thing to like totally that act of is totally either eventually working uh, towards his favor or against his favor. It's like the two possibilities that I'm about to think. Because like I'm about to bring it, especially because of like the fact that he had basically placed his own like Jun-ho's own like police tag onto just like work and like I'm about to bring that possibility having definitely having like a lot of importance eventually definitely is like the opposite scenario that I was expecting. But like I'm referring, the importance would be like its relevance and its importance, even though like definitely Junko might have totally intended while putting on that point stack onto the black body, like throwing the body into like the sea. That point Junko might have totally intended and for like that body to like precisely wash up shore on like the mainline beach and basically that way so that like he could get like the remaining police force would be like taking the civilian situation seriously and like might even be able to like make it to where exactly the ship would be taking like the ship of the civilian would be heading off to where like the civilian is taking place like for like this would be like the John Force like attempt to like get like the remaining police force to like come up in, as like backup and that way him being able to like to getting that all that had a backup him being able to like bring down the people running like the civilian and all that and possibly even say his brother. Like I'm possibly praying for John Paul would be also think that like his brother, like who would be like the precise person that might have totally bet for like the Sangyong like to basically save him, especially during like the red light, green light game, while the precise gaps to had hold on to like the Sangyong and the Sangyong like and basically. I had basically like Sangyong to like save his life. Like that person might have been definitely his brother definitely my considering John Ho's like brother is definitely my considering to save him might be like the hopes that like John Ho right now would be having like as he would be like going up to save him as well as bring down like the people behind like this video and all that stuff would be what would be hoping. And so like he would be only hoping with like for like this dead body of like Jack this William worker to like wash up ashore on like the mainland. That way like him eventually getting like the police are recognizing like the tag of like going for on the body, and basically that way like does all that backup like showing up eventually in precisely in the precise time, and that way can be collectively with like the backup being able to like bring down like the Squid Game people people bring down the Squid Game and capture all the people who are like behind like Squid Game and everything. To be what Jun-ho we are right now hoping. But like I'm considering the serious possibility that I'm considering is definitely for like that whole act of like throwing the body into like the sea for like backfiring for like precisely Jun-ho, and it totally acting against like Jun-ho, and basically eventually resulting in like Jun-ho's that eventually, and Jun-ho's like cover as well being blown uh, that by precisely that dead body after like bunch of days like that dead body eventually wanting up a shore precisely on the precise beaches of that precise island where like the Squid Game would be taking place. It's definitely like kind of like a more likely possibility that I'm considering like things totally happening against like John Fox favor, and that I'm considering like definitely a daily surveillance or like a daily patrol like thing would be done most likely being might be being done all around like that island where like Studian will be taking place. Definitely my perspective. So like eventually I'm considering the scenario is like that fresh dead body of like the Studian worked up with like the tag of like John Fox on it, like basically watching a show on that side, Squid Game Island beaches. It's like the scenario that I'm considering, and like the game workers during their patrol, like noticing this body and noticing the tag of John Ho. And at that point itself, I'm considering them, and definitely that that Squid Game workers would be definitely having that exact same sword on the neck, using with which like I'm considering like the Squid Game workers would be precisely identifying like as to like which Squid Game worker it is, and like I'm considering that way like them like, and that will be how I'm considering like the precise Squid Game, and there will be like a definitely number for like each Squid Game worked up in like the red uniform is definitely so like this will be how I'm considering like the people running like the Squid Game would be precisely like the cover and disguise of like version 4 would be getting blown at that point in such a manner like prevention scenario that I was covering. And that will be how like Jun 4 will be dying. It's like prevention possible scenario that I was just on everything. And I'm leaning more towards like that's the possibility happening. But like the precise body like that will game work up with like some sort of like precisely walking up not on like the mainland but on the precise game island with like the scenario that I'm looking at already nothing my version the way with that. So like until then like I'm considering John Ho to definitely succeed in his like disguise and like tricking of like the entirety of like the people running like this game and all of the game was definitely my consideration. So until that point like John Ho would be like would be totally be able to like help out like would be provide a lot of help and would be able to like help out like Sanjion and like the remaining survivors of like the Prince game and everything. It's definitely my person to wear and so like definitely everything the reason right now is that like this time that's the end of the thing like the old man who's the old man like dementia who definitely going to be like Sanjion's father, and that's the thing Sangyong only finding out about that only in like the as that Sangyong will present far ahead in like the Squid Game. Initially, it is only at like such a later point in like the future that I'm considering Sangyong will be like even finding out about like the old man with like dementia being like Sangyong's father. Sangyong will be like figuring that out somehow. It's like the initial was scenario that I'm considering. And I'm also bring as for like Dolman with like dementia, I'm also bring him to like totally his like dementia to like he can precisely during like the this like this time in like the very first quick game that he would be participating like I'm also bring mid like in between like the quick game while like the very first game would be taking place, I'm also bring dementia effects to kick in, and that person like him to be like totally unaware of like the unaware like where and loses temporarily once again loses memory and only be unaware of like where exactly he would be even standing while he would be in like the middle of like the very first quick game. at this time is definitely the scenario that I'm considering, and that would be how I'm considering like the ornament dementia will be like time this time in like the very first game. It's like the scenario that I'm considering, and I'm considering this to like definitely totally affect like to a certain bit like initially will be like totally affecting Sangyo. But I can also bring with like the uncertainties that would be lying ahead up ahead with like the second and once like Sangyon would be like the moment Sangyon would be like attempting like the second Squid game itself like uh due to like compared to the second Squid game being like far extremely difficult compared to like the first I'm just putting like this that extreme uncertainty and extreme danger of like the second Squid game itself would be like I'm just being more than enough for like Sangyon to like totally even forget about like the death of like the old man after like the second Squid game, like the scenario that I was with. But yet like I'm just putting it would be precisely eventually once like Sangyon would be like making its way into like eventually towards like the fourth or like the fifth Squid game like it would be around that time that I was putting look like the Sangyon probably most likely realizing it through some conversations like some that the eventually somehow the Sangyon early coincidentally like totally somehow shockingly realizing that like that the first old man with like dementia was like actually Sangyon's father. It's definitely like the scenario that I was putting him about even with the stage and even with his like health and even with his like dementia, like that he was like repeatedly putting himself through those like extremely dangerous situation over and over again, solely just for like Sangyo as the like Sangyon's mother right would be like one thing that I'm also bring Sangyo shockingly and extremely emotionally realizing only towards like the fifth or sixth video. By the time Sangyo will be reaching surviving and make it around that point, like previous scenario that I'm also bringing another definitely I'm considering position right now with that even like the second time like Sangyeon like basically precisely being given like the uniform number of like precisely four to physics and like the old man look like dementia once again like with like the first time like being having like the exact same uniform number of one like I'm considering right now but the realization definitely that like definitely it would just be like them simply casually giving away like the very exact same uniform that Sangyun and like the Paul Mammoth like had when they initially played like the studio. That won't be the case, definitely for example. To bring like currently there would be like a total players of like million. And second to my question that like this time Sangyun won't be like the final last player, like the number 456 of Sanjon won't be like the last number, like total number of like the Julian players that right now would be like entering like the studio time would be even big, far greater than for especially when the Korean version. So like and especially and I was referring like especially with like among like the initial 456 like after like the red light, green light game like with like so many haven't died like I'm referring so like even all the spaces would be right now filled with like new sets of like Squid Game players who would be like participating in like the Squid Games for like the first time, and some among them being like tricked into like joining, tricked and trapped into like joining like the Squid Game by like people they know or like their friends who people basically people who have attempted like being in Squid Game, and like the some others being like being being people with like extreme that exactly like the nature like Squid Game candidates who might have joined willingly on being like informed about like the dangers that lying up ahead for like the Squid Game yet like to like the extreme that like them as well deciding to like join like the Squid Game and that way like them as well. It's like the other possible scenarios that I'm literally putting up over the okay, almost people in like total collectively being like the numbers of like the total number of people this time like participating in like the studio being far greater than positive is definitely my experience and that I'm sitting also. And so like I'm still thinking to my also other person's theory and question that maybe like this would be what like exactly what like the person running this game wanted like for so many great number of players, like even way far greater than possible to end up into like the Squid Game and for that grand huge event of like a Squid Game to happen. So that like I'm wondering right now, maybe I'm going to pick him to like this time like I'm going to bring most likely among like the three clauses that would be like given to them conditions or clauses that will be like a role of like game that will be given to that they were given like the last time they had all these people had basically joined while they were joining the issue game initially. Like I'm considering this time like the third clause won't be present. It's like also like a possibility that I'm considering that basically there will be only the first and second clause that basically like uh, uh, that basically they are not refused to like basically from stopping like the Squid game once the game has started, and basically even doing so will be resulting in like termination or elimination. And like the third clause of like the majority not existing this time, it's also like an possibility that I'm considering everything right now, and that giving such that itself like giving such a shock and surprise and the serious scare to like all the Indian candidates at that point itself. So like about that about the role thing and my working emotion. Because like the Suki that ultimate trap that that I'm also bring maybe for like the person running like the game might have only been setting up for like all these Indian candidates, and the sole reason for even allowing like the initial Indian candidates to evenly it's also like my personal impression that I'm sitting on to and my personal impression. Like definitely my personal impression right now was like straight away like everyone deciding to like form a team with like Sang Dion, like form this team with like Sangu Ali and like the old man and like the thing that received guy as well like for me actually wanted to like form a team with like the girl was told like the formula from like Sang Dion and all that. Definitely, this would be one thing that definitely the people running the studio might have only been easily able to like foresee. Definitely, my question because of like them all having like experience like the dangers and the absolute threat and fear of like the red light, green light game. Like the next time they would be entering, like they would already want to like join, play the Squid game as a team would be one thing that like the people running the game would be totally easily able to like foresee. It's definitely my consideration. But like I'm just that itself would be like and the student that whole therefore teamwork and planning would work different definitely to backfire with like the very first quick game itself definitely make up for it especially because like I'm considering the workers the people running like the game would be able to like foresee like a teamwork attempt by like the candidates like to straight away instantly itself like it's like a very first quick game itself to trust that teamwork would be definitely the intent and intent and motive of like the people running the game is definitely my preference. So that exactly is what I'm preferring. Like this, I'm preferring definitely this time like the first two game won't be most likely won't be like a red light green light games or like even if it's like a red light green light game like I'm preferring it to be like totally different from like the very first red light green light that it will be totally different that I'm preferring it will be set up in such a unique kind of way that will be like totally in which like teamwork would be totally not possible. Like I'm different or like I'm leaving most of the possibility that it would be a game where like the candidates would have to like basically try to like take each other out in order for them to like proceed further or something along the lines. It's also like I'm preferring maybe for like the very first game. Definitely a game that totally where like teamwork would be something that shouldn't be done in order for them to like succeed in that game. It's like the kind of game, the very first Squid game that I'm preparing this time. It's like the scenario that I'm preparing, yet like I'm preparing while, and that instantly breaking like the whole team that the aggressive guy would be forming. But like I'm preparing like in the case of like the Sangion and his team, like I'm preparing them, I'm preparing totally maintaining that team was while like even though the game would be like disadvantage it like played in like a teamwork. It's what I'm preparing. Still I'm preparing in the case of Sangion, like I'm preparing Sangyeon totally still maintaining that teamwork and still with that that resulting in like an extreme disadvantage still able to contend as a team most likely make passing like the and winning like the first game. It's like the scenario that I'm observing, but like I'm also operating like the possibility of like the old man I'm observing maybe also like a possibility of like in like the middle of them already would be like playing like this good game in like a disadvantage of manner like but I'm also preferring like in the middle of the game, like the old man having like dementia effects like kicking in, and that like I'm also preferring totally scaring Sangu and all of them, but like I'm also still like them holding on to their teamwork and that that way I'm also preferring Sangu totally helping out like the old man and I'm also right now I'm also preferring maybe due to that help alone like even though the old man dementia effects would be kicking in like him still solely due to like his help from Sangu and I'm also preferring Ali as well totally at that point helping like the old man and that way like them even with like that extreme disadvantage, like them just barely making it and just barely passing and winning like the first round as like a team. It's like the scenario that I'm considering. But like I'm considering that would be like totally kind of like triggering I'm considering like that would be totally kind of like easily triggering like Sangwoo is definitely my considering this Sangyeon like extreme like that bond of friendship that Sangyeon have towards like the old man ambassador would be something that I'm definitely protecting like Sangwoo would be eventually totally frowning upon. It's definitely going to happen. And I'm considering Sangwoo telling Sangyeon to like basically let that old man go and basically to not have him as part of their team. Would be one thing Sangwoo and but they definitely protecting to tell Sangyeon. But I'm also protecting like they are like a small dispute as well. I'm also totally and then also protecting like for like that for dispute and that fight to like happen between like Sangwoo and Sangyeon most likely maybe even after like the very first Squid Game where like I'm preparing due to like the old man's like dementia I'm preparing keep putting like Sang-woo and some like entire team like Sang-woo, Sang-woo and all of the team at like such extreme risk of basically having all of them dying. But like I'm preparing them to like only just barely able to like survive at the very last second is like and win the game. That's definitely the scenario that I'm preparing and at that point like I'm preparing Sang who will be like extremely angry and like it's good happening within Sang-woo and Sang-yeon. And I'm also where like Sang-yeon would be like totally thinking along the lines of like bonds of friendship and all that Sang-yeon have towards like the man while Sang-woo would be like only like talking along the lines of to like really increase and maximize the chance of like survival and winning like the Squid Game definitely my best friend. So like neither of them to like totally agree with each other. It's like the scenario that I'm preparing. So like I'm preparing eventually like the upcoming Williams, I'm preparing like Sangwoo, I'm preparing would be like I'm preparing acting out eventually in like an extremely villainous manner where like I'm preparing Sangwoo would be like stealthily even while like all of them would be like playing the game upcoming games as well as a thing like I'm preparing maybe like Sangwoo stealthily trying to make the game harder for like the steadily trying to make the game difficult for like the old man so as to like that way to like essentially trying to make it seem as if like the old man actually had made a mistake and ended up dying in like the Squid Game. Now basically to create such a scenario for bring Sangu while playing like the future scenes like upcoming scenes like eventually and also bring Sangu like deliberately yet like stealthily trying to that way indirectly take like the old man life in one of like the citizens. It's also like a scenario that I'm going to bring and but bring like for Sangyeon to like see this kind of precisely be able to like realize this and I'm going to bring like after that Squid Game I'm going to bring Sangyeon and Sangwoo that probably having that absolute quarrel, like a serious quarrel and fight with like the scenario that I'm also going to look for. And I'm also bring that attempt to like Sangwoo most likely I'm preparing would be like totally straight waves would be like a dominant delay would be like detected by Sangyeon and Sangyeon supposedly saving the old man and like them still completing like the Squid Game. But like that first Squid Game and was detecting like the very next Squid Game it will be like after that fighting like the very next Squid Game that I'm detecting even without like Sangwoo like doing anything I'm detecting like the old man maybe like the old man like after like seeing that fight like the old man totally feeling as if like he's like dragging them down so like the old man feeling like guilty and maybe like the old man in like the very next game like basically possibly like consciously like committing like a mistake in like the game and basically to like that way help Sanji like I'm so definitely be like the old man some like I'm like the old man that way like in such a manner like also like an eventual for two scenario that I'm considering and at that point like after that game like I'm considering like Sanji being like extremely disturbed and sad and I'm considering Sanji totally shouting out at like Sangwoo taking out all of his anger and sadness out of Sangwoo and considering Sangwoo like slowly realizing and feeling that absolute guilt and basically considering still eventually like Sun Studio and considering like that to create like that absolute breakage in that whole bond of friendship that Sun Gion would be having with like Sangwoo and also bring Sangyeon like basically uh, not teaming up with like Sangwoo. And maybe I'm personally preferring that's like one possibility that I'm going to bring. The other possibility is like Sangwoo basically. And the possibility is two would be like the main themes that I'm going to bring. Like the theme of like the aggressive guy and like the theme of like Sangyeon, Sangwoo and all of that. So like I'm going to bring eventually maybe like Sangwoo then switching teams from like Sangyeon's team and joining with like that aggressive guy's team as well. Eventually it's like also like a possible scenario that I'm going to bring. And basically eventually that I'm preferring Sangwoo like maybe dying like I'm preferring like if Sangwoo dies like I'm preferring it will be most likely happening exactly towards like the it will be happening either during like the fifth game or like in like the sixth game that I'm preferring like Sangwoo or the will be die. So definitely until then Sangwoo will definitely be surviving like the scenario that I'm preferring I'm taking. So like my considering ambitions are like if eventually sun would die in such a manner, then I'm considering it should be maybe through like the aggressive guy like betraying Sangwoo. Like after like Sangwoo would join the team of the aggressive guy, like the aggressive guy eventually in one of like the fits or like the sixth game, like maybe like the aggressive guy probably betraying like Sangwoo mid game for him to like get like and it would be like such a game that basically like he that aggressive guy will be seeing that an opportunity by like probably betraying Sangwoo for like the aggressive guy to like really get another added advantage and for him to like constantly like the positive like being able to like complete that good game and that possibly either resulting in like Sangwoo's death or like the other positive like him attempting that and like Sangwoo actually about being about to die but like at that point would be when I'm considering like Sangyeon all of a sudden like would be like totally showing up as like the savior and would be precisely saving Sangwoo. Until that point, I'm considering like there will be like that absolute like dispute and like they would, until that point I'm considering Sangyeon and Sangwoo wouldn't even be speaking to each other and like there will be that loss of like the bond of like friendship and all that until that point. But like especially as like Sangwoo would be getting betrayed by like the aggressive guy, Sangwoo would be about to die. Like at that point, like he's Sangyeon showing up as like the savior and that way like Sangyeon and maybe like at that point I'm just bring the aggressive guy like trying to like push ahead and that uh so at that point, like him still making some sort of a mistake and him like totally due to his lack of confidence him dying in that Squid Game, while Sangyeon and Sangwoo will be like surprising that Squid Game. And maybe like if such a scenario happens, then I'm going to bring that would be like the Squid Game and it would be in like the sixth Squid Game that I'm going to bring like Sangwoo might be dying. It's like the middle possible scenarios that I'm going to talk about and over reaction. So like my impression is that like eventually such a scenario gets played out, then I'm just preferring uh, the precise moment where like the aggressive guy will be like betraying Sangwoo and Sangwoo will be about to die and like precisely at that point Sangyeon showing up as like that as the savior and saving would be saving Sangwoo like then at that point would be when like Sangwoo would be like shockingly would be like finally be realizing like Sangwoo's realizing and finally would be like realizing like Sangwoo's like mistake that like basically what he did towards like the old man was like totally wrong and basically all that like him realizing when eventually like basically time bringing Sangwoo as well into that very same shoes as that old man and basically that like resulting in like Sangwoo being able to like finally realize his mistake realize and accept and feel sorry for his like mistake this sort of like an eventual scenario, possible scenario that I'm just only starting and then looking to the also like definitely my definitely and direction right now was like the girl who stole like the 4 million from Sangion, like deciding not to team up with like the aggressive guy. I'm considering right now I'm considering for initially like for like the that girl to like basically not join any team at all. I'm considering maybe for like Sangion like offering her like the help of like joining like Sangion team and like her straight away rejecting Sangion like the scenario that I'm considering. And like I'm definitely putting that girl to like play the school game all by herself. Like I'm considering not being deciding to not be part of anything. Because like I'm considering her to initially be of like the mindset that she would be like she would be able to like perform the best all by herself. She would be like her mindset as like is right now is definitely my good brain. So like I'm preparing her participating in like the and winning like this good game like one after another all by without any teamwork like all by herself. It's like the scenario that I'm wrestling. But like I'm preparing eventually even her reaching a certain point in like this good game where like even her by herself won't be able to will be getting herself into like serious trouble within like one of like the eventual good games where like I'm preparing her actually making a mistake and her actually about to die. And at that point, I will be preparing definitely it will be precisely Sangyeon that will be one thing like showing up as like the savior and will be perfectly saving her. And at that point, I'm definitely preparing Sangyeon saying some sort of a dialogue to that girl involving like the importance of teamwork. And I'm also preparing like the girl at that point like finally have being forced to like have no other choice but to like admit that like Sangyeon is like a right and basically realizing like the importance of teamwork and the fact that like and like I'm just preparing it to be in such a manner that I'm preparing her I'm definitely preparing eventually joining Sangyeon's team is like definite eventual scenario that I'm definitely preparing and my personal impression. And definitely my personal impressions were like as like Sangyeon would be progressing through the experience like Sangyeon definitely would be getting like that absolute rush of like his memories from his like childhood of back when Sangyeon used to play like the his like childhood school games, like basically that all that memories and that muscle memories and all that of all that like basically like totally kicking in and rushing into like Sangwoo each and every single time Sangwoo will be helping out another person in like the present danger of Squid Game, just like the scenarios that I'm just delivering. And that way I'm delivering initially, even though initially in like the Squid Game, initially it would be like Sangwoo that would be like taking the role of like the lead and those different as like this game progress eventually definitely like Kang Leon which is slowly making his way into like starting to like perform better than everybody else due to his like memories of like his childhood Squid games kicking in and basically taking slowly taking up that role of like that leader and actually performing as like an absolute leader even way better than Sangwoo and that way like I'm different Sangwoo being like popular among like the remaining Squid Game candidate survivors as like such a strong and skilled leader. And that way that creating like a lot of jealousy as well from like the aggressive guy's side as well. It's like an eventual scenario that I'm also talking for Sangwoo. It's like for Sangyeon is like as well it's like an eventual scenario that I'm also talking and my talking to the impression. So like that new person theory and person right now. So like the woman who wants to right now join like the team of like the aggressive guy and the definitely as for like the journey of like the aggressive guy in like the Squid Game, like I'm also talking his journey would be precisely a journey of betrayal, especially when but like the aggressive guy already right now itself like having like a gang of people like basically uh, teaming up with like the aggressive guy. Definitely, I'm considering the aggressive guy. Definitely protecting the each good game would be taking advantage of like each of like his like teammates and betraying each of his like teammates to like move forward. Yeah, for like the aggressive guy to like move forward. It's like the scenario that I'm considering. Exactly like how like the girl who stole like the 4 million from like the protagonist like her revelation about like the whole pickpocketing and looting of like the aggressive guy. Like basically I'm considering that his like that thing in I'm considering to like exactly keep doing that process definitely working like the aggressive guy, like especially doing that exact same thing, even in like the current Squid Game as well, with like him only betraying like just like teammates like one after another, like just for like the aggressive guy to like move forward. And I'm considering eventually the aggressive guy teaming up with like definitely I'm considering like the aggressive guy definitely like eventually accepting like the woman who badly wants to join like the aggressive guy team in like before even like the first Squid Game even starts, it's definitely the scenario that I was bring. And then number to bring the aggressive guy like betraying like he eventually with each Squid Game like that like he would be like betraying one of like his like teammates and that way like each of his like teammates would be like dying one by one like as like the aggressive guy will be progressing ahead and ahead and to the point that I'm bring eventually and I'm bring as like the aggressive guy would be progressing I'm bring him to possibly get like more teammates as well to like join like the aggressive guy's team. But yet like I'm the aggressive guy doing this like very same betrayal. Like even though the aggressive this guy would be like betraying others, his own teammates for him to like proceed further. Like I'm different still. Like I'm different his performance. I'm different from this time. I'm different to be like seriously great. That I'm different like people feeling safe around like not safe but still even though they would be feeling safe like they would be seeing like the aggressive guy as like a source of power like pushing forward in through like the Squid Games and like they would be only feeling as like they follow that power and join the team of like the aggressive guys then you might be able to like make it towards like the completing like the all the Squid Games would be and that way through such a manner of thinking like I'm looking a lot of people like the Squid Game like even though I'm the different aggressive guy to like betray one of at least one of his like teammates like most likely in like almost like every Squid Game that like the aggressive guy was still more like Squid Game candidates join like the aggressive guys like team like the scenario that I'm delivering and I'm delivering eventually for like it being a scenario where like it would be like a team betrayal where like the aggressive guy as teaming up with like that woman who badly would be right now joining like the aggressive guys team. And I was to bring like eventually for like the aggressive guy to team up with like in a team manner, like they would be like the aggressive guy and like the woman would be betraying each of like the remaining teammates for them both to like collectively move forward and forward. So like at that point, I was bring that the that woman getting a kind of like a false confidence that basically like the aggressive guy would never betray her. And I was bringing it to be like by the time like the aggressive guy would be making it towards like the fourth game or like fourth or fifth game and it will most likely be like the fourth game that I'm betraying that woman will be more aggressive guy would be basically betraying that woman for him to like move forward to like the fifth game, and that would be like that extreme unexpected shock for that woman, and like with that betrayal and would be from like that aggressive guy is how unforgiving that woman would be definitely dying in the most likely in like and she will be most likely dying in like the fourth game as well. It's definitely also my personal and friendship. So that definitely not going to be an distant right now as for like the girls who sold like the 4 million from like the from Sanjeev like it has right now it's staring towards like the rooftop towards like the precise pipeline like the ventilator and exhaust pipeline connection on like the rooftop like would be precisely due to like her desperately wanting to like basically to get into that pipeline and that way make a stealthy escape out of like the Squid Game building so that like precisely and it will be precisely because of like her even staring at that pipeline will be precisely because of like Amber suffering would be precisely most likely to be she would be like her badly want right now but like right now her she would have definitely especially since she would fall asleep like she would have definitely like watched like the entire way to like the Squid Game Island like that they had came so like I'm referring her she to most likely have an idea as to like where exactly the location where she exactly is in and that location I'm still thinking of my personal reference that like from the Squid Game Island like reaching the precise place where like her parents are like would be like not that hard for her. So like I'm just like her right now even right now as she's like staring on that rooftop exhaust pipeline like her intent and goal right now would be to like uh, with like all the knowledge she has gained right now her only intended ultimate goal won't be for like the Squid Game money, but like her goal would be to like through that success pipeline for on the rooftop for her to like stealthily escape out of like the Squid Game building, and then for she would be totally hoping that if she's able to do that, like the shift through which like the all the candidates were brought to like this game island like would be still be present in that on the shorelines of that island. So like for her to like hijack that ship and then for her to like basically drive the ship, sail the ship to that way try to like make it towards that precise location where like her parents would be and that way for her to like somehow that way like take advantage of the ship and maybe like anchoring the ship uh, at like a distance kind of like a far kind of like a certain distance from like the shoreline yet like for her to like secretly like anchor the ship there and for her to like swing towards like the shorelines and like stealthily like meet her parents and get her parents and to like getting them to like maybe like there will be boats as well present in that ship. Like so for us to maybe stealthily use the boat to and stealthily hide the boat somewhere in like that shoreline and basically for us to like go up to like the mainland and stealthily meet her parents and bring her parents and get her parents to that boat and like get back to like the ship and like basically sail the ship back to like her actual mainland and that way to like totally get her parents back like that way bring her parents back to like her brother and her son and all that and to like that way to save her parents and live with them. Uh, it's like this would be what like she might be like right now planning and might be like the only thing in her mind right now. And it's definitely my personal theory and preference. She won't be at all interested in like the money reward of like Squid Game at this point. It's definitely my personal theory and preference. So like definitely my personal theory and preference right now as for like right now like the front man wanting to like keep an eye on like the websites, ordering to keep an eye on like the websites Squid Game candidates who didn't return for like second time to play the Squid Game. And the it would only have to do with like the then front man wanting to like keep an eye on them precisely because of him fearing like the possibility of like them since like of them like only fully deciding to like never ever return back to like the Squid Game ever again and hence like them possibly like seriously attempting the possibility of them seriously attempting to like expose like Squid Game and basically to get like, them the possibility of them like trying to like get like the trying to like doing their absolute best to like get the police to like basically come after like the Squid Game Island and the Squid Game and like people running it Squid Game like basically the religious exact fear within like the front man and this would be the first reason for like the front man sending his like people to keep an eye on them, ordering his people to like keep an eye on that is definitely my favorite so that like they are not up to like something so I have to like ensure that they are not up to anything targeting like the Squid Game is definitely my person to the ambition. Like definitely my person to the ambition right now as for like the old man with like payment check with words right now about like comparing like the lunch boxes given from like the Squid Game building and comparing it to like the professional lunch boxes given by his wife to him and his like child in like the past. Like basically all these words I'm considering eventually I'm considering it would be after like the old man dies that I'm considering that I'm considering like eventually like the Sangyeon would be like remembering like the old man and remembering all these like words like that old man had interacted and talked to like the Sangyeon until him dying, like all the words that old man had talked and told like Sangyeon, Sangyeon at that point I'm considering maybe like recollecting all those singing of all those words and everything he said and at that point would be when like Sangyeon would be like shockingly realizing that basically that old man is like Sangyeon's father. Precisely because of these words would be playing like a major role in that is definitely my consideration. And then considering at that point like Sangyeon actually remembering that basically it's his mother having like packed him lunchbox when he was a child and like him remembering that lunchbox actually being similar to like the lunchbox actually he had received from like the Scythian building and all that. Like basically right now in like the present like Sanjion might have totally forgotten about all that. So like that would be like the reason for Sanjion right now not sort remembering being able to like realize right now in like the present even after like seeing the lunchbox that never got the I'm also thinking maybe it would be after like the old man's death that like Sanjion will be like seriously like thinking just casual seriously thinking of like all the words the old man said to like Sanjion and that would be when like the memory would be like actually kicking in for like Sanjion that basically yes like so this old man came and was actually Sanjion's father like basically it's like the scenario that I was considering and I was very much like definitely not in the interesting right now with like one of it the skill game worker right now like noticing like the police guy in this case like struggling with the keys to his store like I'm considering definitely it's like the scenario right now the different thing is definitely for like that to gain worker to like definitely be suspicious of like the to sell him like totally reporting to his like immediate superior and which would be like definitely just like that that's William workup is like of like the purple marks like I'm considering reporting to like the square mark uh, superior immediate superior is definitely my consideration and I'm considering definitely it would be the triangle mark would be like the superior to like the square mark is definitely not very much so like I'm wearing this subtle mask guy, like I'm a studio worker, like reporting to like the swap mask, and I'm wearing the swap mask. Like right then I'm wearing like the Squid Game worker with like the swap mask, like not taking this like a report seriously, precisely because of like the bring it to be to like the way he will be reporting it wouldn't be seeming wouldn't be that convincing. So like I'm considering like the immediate superior, like the person with like the square mask, like I'm considering telling him to like basically giving him like the permission to like this, and I'm considering like uh, the game worker with like the round mask, like like the features of like the state police chief. I'm considering him to ask for permission to for him to like just get questions that like the game worker on the door right next to him. So like I'm considering like the unconvinced unconvinced like game worker with like the square mask giving like the permission to question, and I'm considering so to giving the permission to like question. So like I'm considering at that point like the person in like in the school game worker in like the round mask like knocking on the door of like the guy's police chief, and like him like entering like the room, and I'm like preparing him to right then to like ask a bunch of questions to like the police chief, which would be like there would be like some code or like password among like between like the people in like the red uniform. So like he would be to basically confirm that it's like each one of them are genuine. So like I'm just preparing him asking that code or like password to like that precise this guy's police chief. So like at that point I'm just definitely preparing there would be like a fight where like I'm just preparing like the police guy like straight away attacking while completely in his like a red uniform and wearing like the round mask, like him quickly attacking like that side to game worker, and like at that point is responsible for like the police guy to like basically straight away attack like to game worker, and like use the dress to like basically cover like the CCTV, and him like quickly running out of like the of this room while being in like the precise disguise of like the Squid Game worker wearing like the entire right outfit is definitely my personal favorite. So he was taking the life of like the Korean worker who was in the thing, and like by the time and straight away I'm considering the siren as well, straight away still ringing throughout the entire like Korean building, and like I'm considering like right then like a bunch of like Korean workers in like a red uniform like quickly running towards that safe room, and by the time they would be making into that safe room, I could be feeling like they will be like what they would be seeing would be like one of the Squid Game worker like unmasked and dead on the floor. It's like the scenario that I'm most likely to predict. So like by then itself I'm considering what might be happening would be like the police guy would be like in his like a red outfit and mask like I was wearing, him totally quickly running out of that room and finding like a location, a room, quickly running and making it to I'm considering totally extremely luckily and coincidentally for him like I'm considering that to be a room nearby where like through which like and those that's where like there alone like wouldn't be like the CCTV camera. So like I'm considering or like there might actually be CCTV, but like I'm considering what he him to be doing would be like him totally would from there would be like climbing on to like the precise pipe like network that's like on top of it, like exhaust and ventilator pipe network connection that's like on the ceiling, like basically he would be like quickly climbing onto it and basically making it towards that whole pipe network. Just like the scenario that I'm looking, and that would be where like I'm considering like the police guy would be like hiding like the scenario that I'm considering, and this pipe network like since it's already been revealed that pipe network reaches to like where like the Squid Game to the precise room in which like the Squid Game candidates are like I'm considering like this precise pipe network would be like the extreme weakness of like the Squid Game building, which especially because of like I'm considering this pipe network, exhaust pipe network would be like running all throughout the entirety of like the on the ceiling would be running all throughout the entirety of the Squid Game building all the way even to like the room where like each Squid Game as well will be conducted in this living room. So like that pipe network will be so extremely huge that basically once like the police guy would be climbing into that pipe network at that point, I'm considering it being such an extremely hard task for like the at that point like an extremely difficult situation would be in the hands of like the all the people in like the red uniform and as well as like the front man as well as the person running like stadium. At that point it would be such an extremely like tough task for them to basically, and it will be only at that point them realizing that absolute weakness that they had totally not realized that basically the path of like the pipeline on the ceiling being like that much of like a weakness for like for tight securities to game building is definitely one of the very much so there would be where I'm considering like the police guy would be making all of his moves and there would be like through like the small spots in like the uh, through the small hole and openings of like the ventilator pipeline path that I'm considering through is like him would be like even witnessing the police guy would be like traveling and him would be like through that opening would be like witnessing even like the Squid Games taking place. So like I'm considering that would be how like I'm considering like the very first Squid Game that Sanjion and his crew would be like participating in it. Definitely I'm considering like the police guy like totally through the pipeline like the police and through the tiny openings of like the pipeline and considering the police guy like totally finding like where exactly the candidates are, where exactly Sanjion are, like and basically them as like the candidates would be moving to the room where like the first Squid Game will be taking place and then that process involved before like entering into a Squid Game like all that like through the pipeline and the police guy to like basically Jun-ho to like basically see all that and find out about all that through the pipeline and him witnessing all that and him even witnessing like the first Squid Game and him being absolutely extremely shocked and at that realization that as to like how extremely dangerous this Squid Game are and basically all that like him witnessing like the Squid Game through like the ceiling pipeline like the scenario that I'm totally remembering and I'm remembering like the police guy to like jump forward to like make all of its moves through while traveling through like the pipeline network is definitely going to be and I'm remembering uh, Junho eventually like basically multiple times I'm bring him to like being extremely hard for like the Korean workers to like catch up even though a bunch of them would be like entering like the Squid Game entering like the tunnel, like pipeline in like the ceiling, like to catch up precisely, just like stranger who has infiltrated into like the CBN building. Yet like I'm also bring like them having a hard time being the network would be so extremely that them still having like a hard time capturing the police guy through that whole pipeline network and I'm also bring like eventually like multiple times I'm also bring like the police guy like once again from like pipeline network in coming down to like the Squid Game building. But like he would be showing that after figuring out the type location where like there wouldn't be CCTV network. So like that way him like him at times like basically showing coming back from like the pipeline network to like the Squid Game building and then like him like stealthily taking the life of like a bunch of like people in like red not a bunch of like but one by one like at a different point of time like I'm looking him taking out like the life of like a Squid Game worker and like him keeping up like the satisfied of like the seeing like one of like the game workers and then here that way like that only confusion and uncertainty being created for like the Squid Game workers and like the people running Squid Game solely due to like the all that damage that would be precisely that way being solved by like the exceptional skills of like the police guy Jun-ho eventually. Definitely my personal favorite. Still I'm also bringing eventually finally eventually at a certain point that he will be precisely captured by like the skill game workers and at that point I'm definitely pertaining to definitely be facing that at that point it's like also like scenario that I'm going to bring and my favorite. So like definitely with the something I'm mentioning right now that basically so right now like simultaneous situations being like the junk how like having to like eat and that way being forced to like remove his mask. Considering the moment you host to count such mask like that, the considering there will be like among like the people in the red uniform like assessing like the CCTV like definitely there will be like one that will be like checking like and monitoring like a specific set of like the student workers like each day. So like I'm whispering definitely that way like the people in like the red uniform that are doing assessing like the surveillance and assessing like the CCTV would have straight away made out like the moment Zoom for to focus mask to eat like the moment at that very moment itself like they would have definitely figured out, realized like an imposter being present. So my working realization right now is that basically right now John Paul is only planning in his mind that basically definitely don't would be part of this. for Jun-ho that like the moment he took off like mark like he's like in trouble and definitely that like right now it's like civilian workers will be showing up to like after Jun-ho will do one thing that Jun-ho will like so like Jun-ho and the person might be uh, planning on basically letting himself get captured and basically like while they will be like taking Jun-ho like at that point for like Jun-ho to like basically pull off some practical move and basically outsmart them and trying to like escape somewhere into the game which would be like the quick plan like within the short time that Jun-ho was preparing might be currently planning is definitely going to so like the scenario that I'm preparing right now is basically for that without much delay at all like the Squid Game was like showing up like I was covering like three at least three game workers like showing up outside like Junho's like rooms and basically asking Junho to like basically come out. Like my person the generation said like exactly once like Junho would be like getting captured right now and basically Junho would be like carried away by like those good game guards like at that point itself like and would be taken away like at that point itself like on the opposite direction like under the point precisely those two women who went to use the bathroom, like them would be like on their way back as well. With like Squid guards like beside them, like in the opposite direction, coming that straight way. So like at that point, I was preparing. Even just before that, I was preparing like one of like the Squid Game work that like that would be like totally carrying. Junho would be like taking away like Junho's map, and basically at that point, Junho's face would be revealed. And precisely probably due to this like preparing like precisely as to how will be like carried away by the guards in like the opposite direction. Like at that point, still preparing like the girls stole like the 4 million from like Sangyeon. Like they believe her preparing definitely recognizing like Junho's face. Like preparing like Junho like the past uh, might have like been on like the news for like capturing some criminals. So like I was wondering, and as like the police officer who caught some criminal, and that way at that point like I was wondering like the girl who stole like 4 million might have seen like the whole face that way from the news. Definitely went to the news. So like I was wondering at that point itself like on her seeing like Junho like her straight away recognizing Junho as like a police officer, and I'm just wondering straight away at that point taking advantage of that situation to like basically right and itself but different stuff attacking like the guards beside her and straight away at that point itself like John was well attacking like the two guards beside John Ho like the scenario that I was preparing and I was preparing at that point like uh, uh, for the Squid Game workers guards like that will be right beside them at that safe location will be like instantly taken out and I was preparing right then like Jun-ho and like that woman as well as like the girl who stole like the 4 million like all of the three of them like only and also like the girl who stole like 4 million telling Jun-ho that basically there's like a ventilator like pipeline that he could like totally escape through like basically he could probably hide in, like along the lines until the like are revealing like Jun-ho and the three of them like still running towards that location and bring there like I'm bring them trying to like get into that pipeline where like I'm bring it would be that girl that would be like entering into like that pipeline first and then zone 4 and then as like the other woman will be about to get into it as well and also bring right before just before that like the remaining Squid Game guard will be like making it and will be precisely capturing her, that woman definitely not a so her alone getting captured while Jun-ho as well as like the girl who stole like, the 4 million from Sung-Yoo, like the two of them like will be successfully able to like get through into like that pipeline and considering like them both like basically strategizing and planning on how to like basically like bring down like the Squid Game like the people running the Squid Game and to stop like the Squid Game and everything like the scenario that I'm considering. So like I'm considering like through that interaction like each of them are deciding to like help each other out. Like I'm considering the Jun Ho like negotiating with like that girl and like Jun Ho would be definitely seeing like how some skills would definitely be coming in handy for Jun Ho in like the current situation to stop like the Squid Game. The script people running with the game and everything. So like I'm considering Jun Ho totally making a deal with her. And at that point, I was bringing Junho totally successfully negotiating with that girl and giving her the word that Junho would be helping her at certain goal. But in exchange, like she should like help Junho if it like attempt to like bring down like the Squid Game and like what the people behind like Squid Game and all that. So that with that like I'm also bring like the duo of like Jun-ho and like that girl like basically making their move through like the pipelines on the ceilings, like them making their move and basically taking out one by one, eventually taking out a bunch of like people in like the radio almost like the user scenarios that about the program of the program. But while at the same time I'm considering like that other girl who will be like not be able to like escape into like the pipeline and will be getting captured. I'm considering like such a scenario to happen, and I'm considering like that girl would be definitely be possibly sent back into like the Squid Game. Just like into playing like into like the room with like the remaining candidates, where like the remaining candidates is like possibly being sent back there, like the scenario that I'm talking about and other things. Like the feeling Miriam Bachchan right now was like the he stole like the 4 million from the government, like already exploring like the pipeline, ceiling pipeline, like ventilated pathway, like through like the bathroom area, like I'm putting like right now, like precisely before like the game workers will be like opening the door, like I'm going to bring her precisely not only getting back from like the pipeline, but also like her precisely even crossing like ventilator from like door as well. And like I'm going to bring them successfully, like those two women like successfully freaking like the Squid guard that's like standing outside, and I'm also bring it would be then I'm considering precisely when they would be like carried back into like on their way into like being carried back into like their Squid Game candidate room. So be on that way that I'm considering like them totally running into like Jun-ho, and like the scenario would be like happening with like Jun-ho and like that girl like successfully being able to like enter and hide within that ceiling pathway through like the bathroom area. It's like the eventual scenario that I'm basically totally predict and my question reimbursement. Wait, so like definitely reimbursement right now for like this since that code name is like the man with the umbrella and something like the green liquid that basically the girl had basically saw like the Studian workers in Mexico and also bring that green liquid might be definitely be part of like their first Squid game this time. It's definitely very impressive. So like as for like the game I was referring to be most likely that green liquid would be most likely some dangerous acid, like extremely dangerous acid. And I'm considering like the game to be like just like for each of like the candidates who basically pick up like there will be I'm considering for there to be like umbrella set for like for each of like the candidates to use, and I'm considering there will be a timer, and I'm considering there will be like a rain. Once the game begins, like there will be a rain of this like green liquid. Uh, so like these umbrellas will be of like a precise material that can resist that can like the green acid falling onto it like only for like a certain period of time, and that would be like having the connection with like the timer set for like the game. So like I'm also trying before like the time ends for them to be able to like make it to like the finishing point while holding on to like the umbrella in such a specific manner so that like the none of like the green liquid won't fall onto them after the green liquid won't fall onto them. So like this would be like around like kind of like the way in which like I'm preparing like as like how possibly like the first Squid game first game in like the Squid game this time would be. It's definitely my personal impression. Definitely my personal impression right now as for like it being like next day, next morning, and basically still June 4th not being captured by like Julian workers. Like it will be only due to like a consistent like taken by deliberate decision taken by like the immediate superior of like the guards like Julian workers, like the one with like the square mark, especially with the so like I'm just referring like the Julian worker that's on the room right next to like the Jun-ho like might have also reported to like that immediate superior about like the Korean worker right next to him, like about his suspicion regarding like the Korean worker on the room right next to him, struggling with the keys to like end up with a room and all that. Definitely my listener Raymond. So like I'm preparing this like Jun-ho being able to like survive to like the next day without being captured by Korean workers would be like due to like a deliberate decision of like the immediate superior to game worker who would be like currently planning on capturing Jun-ho precisely during like the head count of like staff members. It's definitely that will be right now happening. It's definitely never good emotion. So right then I'm preparing during like the head count, I'm preparing like the immediate superior to game workers of like the square to like stand to show up walk right towards like Jun-ho and pull out like John Paul's mom, like the scenario that I was covering, and him totally like and like the other game workers that will be standing beside like John Paul will be like or like basically carrying John Paul to like this the interrogation room is like the scenario that I was covering right now. And they are about to, and I'm also covering solely due to that alone. Like I'm covering like they might have reported it to like the to the front man as well. And I'm considering that the front man might have reported say like the bottom right to the end as well as something like that. So like I'm considering like an interrogation might be like something taken by the finally taken by the front man and everything, especially maybe today. So like if you especially to interrogate like the food game workers right now currently the professor might not all be present with like the presence of John Ho within the game building precisely solely due to like them being in like being their preference, so like them being like totally absolutely confident of like John Ho not being able to like or confident thinking that John Ho won't be able to like create things of trouble for them and that like basically June for they will be like totally like have might have already decided to like that like June Ho won't be like leaving the game building alive and before that for them to like interrogate Jun Ho and find out as to like how exactly Jun Ho was able to like make it all the way into like infiltrating like how as like how exactly Jun Ho even found out about like this game and from exactly whom and like as like how exactly Jun Ho even managed to like infiltrate and make it job uh, within like the game building to the island and all that. Like basically, and if like Junko has like basically left any signals for like the policing like the city and all that, like basically like to totally interrogate thoroughly interrogate Junko would be like there's a reason for like them like totally delaying that's like what I'm totally pressing for like uh the exact scenario to happen is definitely my presentation. Especially during the head count, like Junko being captured and sent to this like interrogation room there where I'm considering like Junko would be like all the days will be like he's just struggling to like basically keep all the information he knows a secret and like I'm considering that Junko struggling to still keep make keeping it like tight lipped but still Junko is struggling and but still I'm going to bring in eventually I'm going to bring it to be precisely the I'm going to bring that girl to store like the 4 million from Sanjeev like I'm going to bring definitely eventually to basically uh decide to like hide in that hide and travel through that air duct like area like basically in like the ceiling like basically there and I'm going to bring her deciding to like escape from the civilian building but like I'm going to bring that will be like along the line that would be when she would be hiding in that network in like the ceiling that the different her would be like eventually moving the her way into like eventually reaching like the air that would be like right on top of like the interrogation rooms where like basically John Paul would be and then the it would be through her that I'm different John Paul would be like managing to like escape the interrogation room and like that way John Paul as well entering into that but that's the scenario that I was doing. And then like Junho and like that girl literally decided to like team up and basically help each other out. It's like limited scenario that I'm doing right now and the range. So like definitely we're looking at ambition right now. It's definitely that like luck is definitely going to like favor Junho for like the time being is definitely scenario that I'm looking at, especially because of like the noise that basically Junho had heard in like the middle of the night coming from the nearby room might have been precisely the sound of weeping and crying. And it might have been precisely that precise student worker who had suspicions towards like who had suspicion towards like Jung Ho's like the guy that Jung the precise studio worker who saw Jung Ho struggling with the quick keys to like Jung Ho's door uh, while during like Jump House, like the game worker in this case is definitely not very much. So like about that besides next door Squid Game worker, like his brother would be most likely one among like the Squid Game candidates, definitely my favorite. And this would be the precise reason for like him precisely to his like food within his food like receiving that precise Squid Game candidate right now who has received like a note, a red colored note within like his food, like I'm referring that would be precisely like consciously left for him precisely by that precise Squid Game worker that's like the neighbor of like the neighbor of like the precise room where like Jun-ho is basically staying in his with this guy is definitely my personal dream. So like all these people would be definitely eventually be making situations favorable for Jun-ho's like this guys within like the Squid Game building is definitely my personal dream. So definitely that precise red color note, small note that's like left within that food of like that one specific game candidate, that specific candidate would be definitely the brother of like that precise game worker who's like right next to like Janho. Janho's room is definitely my favorite time. Hence why and it only might have been that absolute shock for him to like see his brother showing up back into like the Squid Game. It's definitely my documentary impression because like he might have had like this initial shock when seeing his like brother showing up to like the Squid Game the last time, previous time was definitely my comparison. He might have been relieved that basically his brother had survived. Like definitely my picture impression that like the first time like that Squid Game candidate had escaped on like the Squid Game due to like the majority voting at that point, like the brother who was like the Squid Game voter, he might have been absolutely relieved. And he might have only like assumed that basically his brother after going through like a red light, green light game, like he would be like never even daring to like return back into like the Squid Game era. So like I'm considering, and I'm considering it might have been only at that point as well, like the Squid Game worker who would be like the brother might have even realized about just like younger brother having all this extreme depth as well. It's definitely not the same. So like the older brother might have paid off all that depth and that way to like ensure that it's like a younger brother never ever returns back into like the studio. But like I'm considering like this that younger brother he might have been like just obsessed with like and extremely tempted by the extreme huge sum of money in that glass piggy bank, which was a reveal during his like first time entering like this game that I'm considering him he was only be tempted by after seeing all that huge quantity of money that I'm considering it might be the preparation for like the younger brother once again returning back into like the skill games definitely not preferable. So like the younger brother receiving like his skill game card and all that might have been something that like the older brother post like his game worker might have not at all realized that definitely my good realization. So like I'm preparing uh, and maybe I'm preparing like the older brother after even settling the debt stuff like the younger brother at that point might have even felt confident that like even if he were to like receive a game that he won't like return back into the game. But like about preparing once like the older brother this time saw like the younger brother entering like the game again, like at that point I'm preparing that might have been that absolute extreme shock for like the older brother and that might be the that's the reason for like because he might have never expected to see his like younger brother so back to like the Squid Game. So like that might have been that absolute extreme shock, and that might be the precise reason for like that would be the precise reason for like Jun to hearing that like weeping sound in like the middle of the night. It's definitely it's a very impression. So like I was wondering definitely for like that precise that precise Squid Game worker who totally wants to like help just like brother Squid Game candidate out somehow to ensure that he survives that. I'm considering like him to only like since it's that potential game worker that right now has like the suspicion towards like Janto, this guy. So I'm considering like him to totally secretly and stealthily maybe somehow talk to like Janto, and I'm considering he would be like totally he would have totally figured by now that basically definitely Janto is like someone who has infiltrated into like the Korean place. So like I was preparing maybe him seeking like the help from Jiangsu, and I was preparing maybe definitely I was preparing Jiangsu like definitely getting captured as like the and Jiangsu without much great delay at all that Jiangsu being captured and kept for put up for like an interrogation in an interrogation room. It's like the scenario that I'm preparing, but still even then like I was preparing. for Chanku's escape, like definitely like even like this or the civilian worker would be like helping with that. It's also definitely my percentage reimbursement. Like definitely my percentage reimbursement right now is definitely for like the order for the civilian worker definitely having kept silent as for like a suspicion towards like Jung, who like this guy as a civilian worker, like and so he might have definitely kept it hidden from like the remaining civilian worker, and he might have kept remained silent. Definitely my personal reimbursement, and definitely as for like the red note that was present in like the group of like that candidate should definitely be his like younger brother, and those different that red note might contain the information as to like the precise clue as to like how to win the very first question. That's like one possibility that I'm also bring like the possibility that I'm also bringing like would be like in that note it might have what might have been written would be like that like uh, his name like his like whatever the name would be what written in that note. It's like the other possibility that I'm also bringing, and that way letting his like younger brother student candidate know that his like whatever the right there to help him is definitely my percentage and pricing. Together, one of the two possibilities of like what exactly the content that might be, sorry, something like that precise red note is definitely my percentage and pricing.